A warm welcome to TV Africa News and thank you for always joining us. This is Africa Today. My name is Najima Lima, but first are the headlines. Tanzania makes U-turn to allow Uganda sugar after President Suluhu visit. Cabinet okays the shilling 700 billion for science teachers' salaries. Government suspends organizers of Miss Rwanda following sexual misconduct allegations. Draw for 2022 Sekafa Senior Women's Challenge Cup conducted. A warm welcome once again. Now the news in detail. Tanzania has made a change in mind and accepted Ugandans' sugar into their market after being blocked for over 3 years over a trade dispute between the two countries. On Tuesday, Tanzania President Samia Suluhu Hassan arrived in Uganda for a 2-day official visit on President Museveni's invitation. We have more.
Tanzania President Samia Suluhu Hassan and her host President Museveni later held a private conversation that was followed by official talks where they were joined by ministers and senior government officials to discuss bilateral, regional as well as international matters of interest to the two countries. The two leaders later released a joint communique about what had transpired during the meeting. The joint communique said in part that it was further agreed that Uganda shall supply 10,000 tons to cover the sugar gap in the United Republic of Tanzania. During the meeting, the two leaders also noted the growing trade between the two countries, but also directed the responsible ministers to immediately remove any outstanding non-tariff barriers in order to fully harness the Uganda-Tanzania trade potential. The visit is the third by President Suluhu to Uganda since her election in March last year. The Tanzanian government has for over 3 years, since 2019, refused to allow sugar from Uganda into their market as the trade war raged between the two countries. Whereas they had allowed 20,000 tons into the country, this was later stopped. The Dar es Salaam government reasoned that sugar from Uganda originated from the third-party countries. Speaking on Tuesday, President Museveni welcomed the enhanced relations between the countries that he said will also benefit the region.
Cabinet has approved a shilling 735 billion to enhance salaries for scientists, including science teachers. Dr. Bariomusi said a cabinet meeting that was chaired by President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni on Monday reaffirmed the pay rise effective July 1st.
While addressing journalists at the Uganda Media Center in Kampala, the Minister for ICT and National Guidance, Dr. Chris Bariomusi, saying the money had been earmarked in the 2022-2023 national budget to cater for the increment. The total budget for this financial year is estimated at about 47 trillion shillings. According to Dr. Chris Bariomusi, the increment will mainly depend on one's area of specialty and academic qualifications, and the funds will come from locally generated revenue. Dr. Bariomusi cited medical doctors and other health workers, engineers, veterinary doctors, agricultural scientists, surveyors, architects, among others, as some of the beneficiaries of the pay rise. Dr. Bariomusi urged science teachers who are on strike to resume work, saying the government has not forgotten them. As learners reported back to school on Monday, a section of science teachers across the country laid down their tools, demanding that the Ministry of Public Service implements the presidential directive and cabinet resolutions of August 24, 2021. The resolution sought to enhance salaries for all scientists to the tune of 4 million shillings for newly appointed degree holders and 3 million shillings for diploma holders. Currently, a diploma science teacher in government institution of learning earns between 700,000 shillings and 900,000 shillings, while a degree holder earns between 1 million and 1.4 million shillings depending on experience.
Moving on, the Uganda Peoples Congress Party has called upon the government to restore fully trained commuter services for Kampala North and South as a way of reducing road accidents, which are out a surge. The call was made by Afrcia'S Sharon, the party's spokesperson, during press briefing at Uganda House in Kampala.
According to the party spokesperson Afrcia'S Sharon, these accidents lead to various schools of thought, such as poor driving schools, road fatigue, actual state of our vehicles and poor road systems, not forgetting the narrow roads, which cannot accommodate the heavy traffic. It's upon this ground that these have called upon government to revamp the train commuter services to Kampala North and thus to reduce on these accidents.
When you look at what we call the highways, they can barely sustain a fuso and a second car. The roads are way too narrow and there are no road signs. It was to restore fully the train commuter services for Kampala East, West, as it was before the case. As we explore more city, more trains. There was a time before Uganda, the railways were stopped. We had trains that would go from Kampala to Mukono and proceed to Namabe and so on. That kind of relieved the city of the traffic. But I don't know what has happened to the train system, and all our trains are just being killed instead of revived.
UPC also wants the construction of roads, both within the cities, towns, trading centers, and upcountry be given a longer lifespan beyond 15 years cycle, in addition to beefing up the ambulance services across the country.
Let's look at the quality of roads. We have seen roads that have taken less than 3 years, commissioned, having potholes, not even a pothole, a real hole in the middle of the road. And then you wonder, who are these contractors that are working on these roads? The construction of our roads, both within the cities, towns, trading centers, and upcountry highways, need to be given a longer lifespan beyond 15 years, as it is in the case.
They further welcome the initiative of the Catholic Church and Nkozi Hospital to partner and build a specialized ward for road accident victims in Masaka, saying this would help in service delivery.
The party fully supports the initiative by the Catholic Church and Nkozi Hospital, which has decided to partner and build a new hospitalized ward for road accidents along Masaka Road. Government should embrace this with urgency and should support morally and financially to such initiatives. This will mitigate the loss of lives in transit, especially those who have been in accidents and have incurred serious injuries. Instead of waiting for an ambulance, if there is a nearby hospital, such lives can easily be saved.
In a space of 2 weeks, Uganda has lost a score at road accidents, with the recent case involving Link bus in Fort Portal that left 21 dead on spot and several with grave injuries.
Let's take a quick break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, the right to know. The government of Rwanda has halted the organization of the national event to select Miss Rwanda following several allegations of misconduct and abuse towards the contestants. Let's take a look.
The country's Minister of Youth and Culture, Rosemary Mbabazi, said that the Rwanda Inspiration Backup, which is the official body that organizes this event, has been barred from going ahead with the preparations. She further revealed that her ministry, in conjunction with the Rwanda Culture Heritage Academy, will consider looking for a new organizer for the events. The suspension comes at a time when Diodene Ishimwe, who is the chief executive of Rwanda Inspiration Backup, is undergoing investigations over the sexual abuse of several contestants. Ishimwe was arrested last month by the police and is now facing charges in court. He is facing 3 charges including rape, soliciting sexual favors as well as sexual harassment.
The military court in Ouagadougou on Tuesday sentenced former Burkina Faso President Blaise Compaoré and 9 other defendants to pay more than 1.2 million euros in damages to the beneficiaries of former head of state Thomas Sankara and his companions assassinated in 1987. The amount of damages for reparation of moral and economic prejudice amounts to 807.5 million CFA francs, including a symbolic franc for the heirs of Thomas Sankara, said Judge Abain Meda. This sum will have to be paid jointly by Blaise Compaoré, the former commander of his guard, Hyacinthe Kafando, and the former head of the army in 1987, Gilbert Diedere, all sentenced to life imprisonment in early April for their involvement in the assassination, as well as 7 other defendants sentenced to between 3 and 20 years in prison. According to the court decision, the Burkinabe government will have to compensate the beneficiaries if the convicted persons are unable to pay the amounts. The military court, however, rejected a request for the return of Thomas Sankara's property to his family. Benewende Stanislas Sankara, one of the lawyers for the Sankara family, said that they deplore the chamber's decision not to grant the request for the return of property, but will decide whether or not to appeal. Thomas Sankara, who came to power in a coup in 1983, was killed along with 12 of his companions by a commando during a meeting at the headquarters of the National Council of the Revolution in Ouagadougou. The death of Thomas Sankara, who wanted to decolonize mentalities, who was a taboo subject during Mr. Compaoré's 27 years in power, forced out after a popular uprising in 2014. Away from that, the former Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan will not seek the ruling party ticket to contest presidential elections next year, his spokesman said. This follows months of speculation that he was planning to return to national politics. We have more.
According to reports, a group of supporters from northern Nigeria bought nomination forms for Jonathan to take part in the ruling All Progressive Congress Party primary elections scheduled for the end of the month. In a statement on Monday cited by the media, Jonathan's spokesman Ikechu Izzy said the former president did not authorize the purchase of the nomination forms, a requirement for candidates to take part in primary elections. Izzy said that while they appreciate the overwhelming request, they wish to state that Goodluck Jonathan has not in any way committed himself to this request. With President Muhammadu Buhari due to step down next year after serving 2 full terms, the race to succeed him is wide open. So far, over 20 ruling party candidates have registered to contest the primary vote. Registration is expected to end on Tuesday, and a party committee will screen the candidates, who include Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, former Lagos State Governor and party heavyweight Bola Tinubu, Minister of Petroleum Timipeli Silva, and several government ministers and state governors.
Moving on, Sergei Lavrov visited gas-producing ally Algeria for talks on Tuesday as Europe jerks to secure alternative energy supplies in light of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Algeria is a major gas supplier to Europe, providing 11% of its imports, compared with 47% from Russia. While speaking to journalists after meeting his counterpart Ramtane Ramamura and President Abdelmadjid Tebboune, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that they very much appreciate Algeria's considered, objective and balanced position on the Ukrainian question. Algiers abstained when the United Nations General Assembly overwhelmingly passed a resolution in March demanding Russia immediately withdraw from Ukraine. Italy, Spain and other European Union member countries have looked to Algeria as they seek to cut their dependence on Russian oil and gas. But Algeria anxious to consolidate its long-standing alliance with Russia, has repeatedly stressed that it lacks the capacity to meet such demand in the short term. Asked about Algeria's gas deliveries, Lavrov said that Russia, Algeria and other gas exporters believe that they should respect deals that have already been reached. Moscow's top diplomat said trade between the two countries had hit $3 billion last year despite the coronavirus pandemic. Let's once again take a quick break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, the right to know. In our business news today, the International Monetary Fund on Tuesday granted a €432 million loan to Mozambique, the first since it withdrew 6 years ago at the time of the so-called hidden debt scandal involving the government. The outline of the deal was announced in late March.
According to a statement by the IMF, these provisions will support the economic recovery and the measures put in place to reduce public debt and financial vulnerabilities, adding that the program supports the government's ambitious reform plan. In 2016, one of the country's biggest corruption scandals broke in Mozambique. Secret loans worth almost €2 billion were granted by foreign banks to Mozambican public companies and guaranteed by the state. After these revelations, the IMF suspended its budgetary aid, followed by all international donors. Since then, the financial institution has only granted emergency aid after Cyclone Ida in 2019 and in 2020 in the context of the coronavirus pandemic. Deprived of international financing, Mozambique, a former Portuguese colony, defaulted on its debt and its currency, and the Mexico collapsed, causing the most serious financial crisis since its independence in 1975. A subsequent independent audit uncovered the misappropriation of €426 million that remains unaccounted for. Some 19 defendants are currently appearing before a special court in high-security prison in Maputo. Mozambique's former president, Armando Guebuza, has been called as a witness.
In our health news today, faced with the climate emergency and the drought that affects the planet, particularly the African continent, many heads of state are meeting in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, to adopt measures to help people gain access to water and the resources needed to conserve their land. In the Horn of Africa, 20 million people are threatened by famine, according to the UN.
As the conference holds, a new report from the World Meteorological Organization says the world is creeping closer to the warming threshold international global warming agreements are trying to prevent. An international team of weather scientists who compiled the study said there is a 93% chance that the world will set a record for hottest year by the end of 2026. Dr. Max Daly is the director of the climate program at the World Meteorological Organization, say that the increases in temperatures we are seeing today come after years of a build-up of greenhouse gases. Dr. Daly said that the climate system does not change literally overnight, but rather changes by degrees as it were, and we are already approaching the lower limit, the 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels that the Paris Agreement seeks to keep the global warming within. The global team has been making these predictions informally for a decade and formally for about 5 years, with greater than 90% accuracy according to the meteorologists. Climate indicators, particularly in Africa, have been characterized by continued warming temperatures, accelerating sea level rise, extreme weather and climate events such as floods, landslides and droughts, and associated devastating impacts.
In our sports news today, the draw for the upcoming Sekafa Senior Women's Challenge Cup has been successfully held on Wednesday. The function, conducted via Zoom, had a total of 8 nations from the East Africa region, and these were pooled into 2 groups, each containing 4. Ahumuza has more.
It should be noted that Uganda will host the tournament starting on 22nd May to 5th June 2022 at Fufa Technical Center, Algeria. Host Uganda have been placed in Group A and will have to compete against Rwanda, Burundi and Djibouti. Group B has Tanzania, Zanzibar, South Sudan and Ethiopia. This will be the first time in a long time that Burundi and Rwanda are featuring at the same regional event. Both Uganda and Burundi will use the regional championship as a precursor for the 2022 Total Energies Women African Cup of Nations in July. Uganda qualified for the Continental Showpiece and were placed in Group A alongside hosts Morocco, Senegal and Burkina Faso. Burundi, on the other hand, are in Group C that has defending champions Nigeria, South Africa and Botswana. This is the second time that Uganda is hosting this championship, the first coming in 2016.
That was the news. Thank you for always keeping it TV Africa. Please do stay tuned. More programming coming your way.